Welcome to Paraben Consumer Software's tutorial on VoiceLogger. VoiceLogger is a personal recording tool for Windows computers that also is a security and auditing tool. Let me go over some of the features of VoiceLogger. First, VoiceLogger can turn any Windows computer into a hidden voice recorder. Most people don't realize that computers have active microphones that can be used to record conversations in the room or on the computer itself. VoiceLogger allows you to secretly record conversations. This is very useful for auditing use of a computer, preventing unauthorized use and use that should not be allowed in your organization. You can actually email the recordings to any email address with VoiceLogger, so you don't even have to have access to the computer again. Once you set up VoiceLogger, you can walk away and it can email you the recordings. As an administrator, that's very important. It is voice activated, so it can actually record up to 10 seconds before the sound level triggers a recording event. It has stealth mode, which means that the interface will disappear and the user doesn't realize that they are being recorded. And you can plug in the USB drive to collect the recordings automatically and to take the software out of stealth mode and be able to make changes to it. So those are the basics of what VoiceLogger is and what it can do. Let's show you what is contained on the VoiceLogger USB drive when you receive it. You can see here that we have a help file. This is the comprehensive help file that will go into all the details, including advanced options. The Getting Started guide is focused on getting it set up to be able to perform monitoring and auditing for unauthorized use of your computer. It also has a couple of configuration files. Now only advanced users should change any of these. So I'm going to recommend that you don't touch them unless you're an advanced user. You have your license key. Now the licensing allows you to install VoiceLogger on one computer at a time and use it on one computer. If you need to move that license to another computer, you need to uninstall VoiceLogger and then license it on the new computer after you install it. And then of course you have the VoiceLogger software. So when you double click on that, it will take you through the setup process. And I'm going to actually show you how that works. I've got it installed on this computer already, so I won't actually install it. But you know that Windows will actually ask you to verify if you want to allow it to make changes, so you hit yes. You can choose to have a desktop icon and a quick launch icon. If you're doing this in stealth mode as a monitoring tool and a security tool, you're not going to want to check those. And when you click install, it will install the software, and then at the end it will ask you if you want to launch the software and view the README file. You can go ahead and do that. One other thing that I'll note is that it does allow you to change the installation folder. Right now it's an innocuous folder called VL, so most people won't look into that. So it's up to you whether or not you want to change where it's installed. So let's go ahead and launch VoiceLogger. Now the interface is pretty simple, pretty small. So let's go over the interface and the very basic setup for you to be able to use it as a monitoring tool. First, we have the recording modes here. We have sound activated. This is going to trigger recording only when the sound level raises above your trigger event level, so you can raise or lower the threshold. Now over here is the length of time that threshold has to be exceeded before recording starts. The very bottom is anytime that a noise is loud enough to trigger the event, it'll start recording. This is like 0 milliseconds. If you want it to be a little less sensitive, so like very basic noises won't start recording, but it will start recording upon a conversation, then you're going to want to change this. I would recommend playing with this. If you put it in test mode here and hit record, you can see that when the voice level gets above the threshold here, the trigger event happens. And this is also the voice level being above it long enough for it to trigger that event. So if I raise this way up, you can see that that's not going to happen. But if I lower the sensitivity and have that way up, then the trigger event is going to happen still. I recommend lowering this down fairly low and then stop talking to see what the ambient level of noise in the room is. You can see the ambient level here is lower, or I mean it's higher than this threshold, so I'm going to want to raise it up or else it's going to constantly record. So go ahead and stop talking again. And that's right on the edge of ambient level of noise. So you might get accidental recordings every once in a while if you're that close. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit more, and that's going to be good here. So going back to the recording modes, you've got the sound activated that we just covered. Normal is you can just hit record and use the voice logger. It's just a simple recording tool. If you want to record conversations in Skype or other tools, you can do that. Or if you want to record conversations with clients, this is also a great way to do it. So when you're in recording mode, you hit record, and it's going to record no matter what the sound level is until you hit stop. If you hit the pause button while this is recording, then it's going to pause but not save the file out. Only when you hit stop is it going to save that MP3 file out for you to be able to listen to it. Dictation mode is similar to the normal mode, except that when you're recording in dictation mode, it is also going to allow you to use the trigger so you can only record yourself when you're talking. Now, between recordings, you can actually have it play a sound here. Oh, so I'm going to have to stop that. So under settings, you can have a marker tone, which is going to have that little beep between your recordings. And also you can have it autosave after 30 minutes of recording. So dictation mode is a great tool, a great feature within VoiceLogger. And I've already covered test mode here. So let's go ahead and get into the setup for your VoiceLogger to be able to monitor activity on your computer. So under general settings here, you're going to want to change these settings under startup. You're going to want to check it to start when Windows starts. That way if the computer is rebooted, it's going to automatically launch VoiceLogger, and you're also going to want to start recordings in the selected mode when this happens. You can also choose to have it start in stealth mode, but it's going to ask you to set up the hotkeys first. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to the hotkeys. Hotkey is what will allow you to put it into stealth mode and to take it out of stealth mode. The other way to take it out of stealth mode is to plug in the USB drive, the VoiceLogger USB drive. So to activate stealth mode, we check the checkbox and we choose a combination. So I'm going to do, since I have other programs with Control and Shift, I'm going to do Control, Alt, Shift, and S for stealth mode. When I can hit that key combination, Control, Shift, Alt, and S, it will close, not close, but it will hide VoiceLogger. Let's go back to the general settings here. So now we can click Start in Stealth Mode, and that will allow it to hide in stealth mode. You can choose where the recordings are saved if you don't want it under the Documents folder. If you want to hide it somewhere else, you can do that. Smart Storage is going to save it by folder for the dates. So each date is going to have a different folder with all the recordings for that date in there. So for audio settings, we don't really need to change anything. You can change skip recordings shorter than X number of seconds. I like to do it at least 3 seconds because most conversations, anything that's pertinent to my investigations, are going to be at least 3 seconds long. I can also change how long it records before the first trigger. So if a trigger event happens, I like to have at least a couple of seconds of recordings before that trigger event. That way, the full conversation will be captured. And then I like to go at least a few seconds beyond the trigger event as well. We've covered hotkeys, events. If you want to play a sound when the recordings start, you can, but I don't recommend that for investigations, monitoring, and auditing purposes. Sound logger, this is in advanced settings. I'm going to go ahead and recommend you skip that as well. Now we have some post-processing settings. So as soon as the recording stops, say you hit a trigger event, the noise level is above the trigger event, a conversation was recorded, and then the noise level drops below that trigger event for 4 seconds. That's going to save out the MP3 file and is going to do whatever you selected here. We can encrypt the recordings. So if you don't want to encrypt the recording, you check the box, click settings, and put your password. I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to set that up. We can send the email. Now you're going to need to look up the settings for your email service. So you're going to have your SMTP server. You're going to want to type that in, whatever it is. Your from address, if you're emailing it to yourself, you can put your from address and the to address in the same in both from and to. The subject, you can change the subject if you'd like. And then you're going to have your username and password here. And then most services are going to require TLS. Some of them will do none, but most will require TLS. Once you've got that all set up, and you have that checked, it will email the recordings as soon as they are saved. You can also copy recordings to FTP servers. So if you have an FTP server, you can set that up there. And you can even execute programs if you'd want. Those are advanced options that I don't recommend you use. So that's the basics for setting up and using VoiceLogger as a monitoring and auditing tool for security of your computer. Thank you for joining me today.